Welcome to Daily English Flow. Stay until the end for a special bonus tip. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Have you ever said a word in English and the person looking at you just smiled and said, "Sorry, what?" Have you ever felt embarrassed to speak because you know your R sounds wrong, or you can't tell the difference between ship and sheep when you say them? Have you ever looked at an English word and thought, why on earth is it pronounced like that? If you are nodding your head, take a deep breath. You are not alone. And more importantly, it is not your fault. English pronunciation is notoriously tricky. It has sounds that do not exist in your native language. It has spelling rules that seem to break themselves. And it has a rhythm that feels completely unnatural at first. But here is the secret. Pronunciation is not a talent you are born with. It is a physical skill. It is muscle memory. It is training your ears to hear new frequencies and training your mouth to move in new ways. Welcome to your A1 Pronunciation Masterclass. Today, we are going back to the absolute basics. We are not just going to repeat words after a teacher. We are going to build your phonetic foundation from the ground up. And we are going to do it by connecting pronunciation to all 6 core language skills: listening, speaking, reading, writing, vocabulary, and grammar. By the end of this video, you will train your ears to hear the difference between tricky vowel and consonant pairs. Learn the exact tongue and lip positions for the hardest English sounds, like T, H, R, and V/W. Understand the hidden rules of English phonics so you can pronounce new words confidently. Master basic word stress and sentence rhythm so you stop sounding like a robot. Use intonation to show emotion and ask questions naturally. Grab a mirror, grab a glass of water, and get ready to work out your mouth muscles. Let's build your perfect English pronunciation. Let's begin.
This is the brief on mastering English pronunciation. A new masterclass reveals sounding like a native isn't some inborn talent. It's a physical skill, built by connecting pronunciation to all core language skills. First, pronunciation starts in your ears and happens in your muscles. You literally can't pronounce a sound you can't hear. We must become sound detectives to spot differences like ship versus sheep. After that, speaking is just pure mouth gymnastics. You physically train your mouth to make new shapes, like sticking your tongue out for the TH sound. It's a lot like physical education. An aching jaw is actually great because it means you're building brand new muscles. Second, decoding the phonics code links spelling directly to sound. Reading is basically decoding phonetic instructions, like the magic E changing hop to hope. Now, you might wonder, why on earth does writing help us speak better? Well, clapping out syllables creates a physical metronome, forcing you to slow down and articulate every single sound. Finally, the music of English lies in word stress and sentence rhythm. Nailing individual sounds means nothing without the melody. Every word has a heartbeat, a stressed syllable, while weak ones crush down into a lazy sound called the schwa. Because English is stress-timed, we emphasize content words and crush the grammar. Think of sheet music versus a live performance. Contractions aren't just informal slang, they're absolutely vital musical tools for maintaining that bouncy rhythm. True pronunciation mastery comes when you stop simply repeating words and start training your ears, decoding the phonics, and feeling the natural musical rhythm of the language.
Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just get right into it today because I am absolutely thrilled to have you here. Look, if you have ever felt that totally crushing frustration of knowing the exact right vocabulary, having all the grammar perfectly mapped out in your head, but still being completely misunderstood when you finally speak, I hear you. It is a universal struggle. But here is the massive secret we're unpacking today. Speaking English, it's not some innate magical talent you're either born with or you're not. It's physical muscle memory. And honestly, in today's hyper-connected, global, remote work landscape, mastering the rhythm and stress of English matters now more than ever to ensure your ideas actually get heard.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You say a word absolutely perfectly in your head, you put it out into the world, and the person looking at you just gives you that dreaded, polite, blank smile and goes, "Sorry, what was that?" Ah, man, it's incredibly embarrassing. It makes you just want to stop speaking altogether. But hey, take a deep breath, because I'm here to tell you this is absolutely not your fault. You see, English pronunciation is notoriously tricky. For example, if your native language doesn't distinguish between the short I sound in ship and the long E sound in sheep, your brain will automatically filter them out. They will literally sound identical to you. Why? Because your brain is basically using an old map, the sound map of your native language, to process brand new English frequencies. Okay, let's dive into this. We are going to build your phonetic foundation straight from the ground up. We're not just going to sit here repeating vocabulary like a parrot. No way. We're going to train your ears to hear new frequencies, train your mouth to move in completely new ways, and ultimately master what is really the lifeblood of the language, the heartbeat of English, stress. So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with hearing before speaking, then move into gymnastics for your mouth, crocking the phonics code, the heartbeat of words, and we'll wrap it all up with rhythm, intonation, and flow. Let's start with section 1, hearing before speaking, tuning your ear to English. So there is an absolute golden rule in pronunciation, and it's this: you cannot pronounce a sound that you cannot hear, period. Before we even worry about what your tongue is doing, we have to become sound detectives. We need to train your ears through phonemic awareness. Actually, let's try something physical right now wherever you are. Place 2 fingers gently on your throat, right around your Adam's apple. Now, make an S sound, like a snake. S. Notice how your throat is completely still. That's an unvoiced sound. Now switch to a Z, like a zebra. Zzz. You feel that buzz? Your throat should be vibrating. We call this the voicing test, and physically feeling that vibration is what bridges the critical gap between just listening to a sound and actually being able to speak it. Moving right along to section 2, gymnastics for your mouth, building muscle memory. Speaking English clearly isn't just about fluency. It's practically a physical education class for your face. Your jaw, your tongue, your lips, they've spent your entire life moving in the very specific, comfortable patterns of your native language. To speak English clearly, we literally have to send your mouth to the gym to break those old habits. Take the dreaded English R sound, for example. A lot of languages roll this sound, or they tap the roof of the mouth. But in English, the R is actually more like a growl. Try with me. Pull your tongue back into a tight ball right in the middle of your mouth. Do not let the tip touch the roof. Smile a bit or round your lips and just growl like a dog. Rrrr. I highly encourage you to grab a mirror while you practice this stuff. Visual feedback is absolutely critical when you're forcing your mouth into these awkward, brand new, and honestly, sometimes downright silly shapes. Let's take this a step further with what I like to call the tissue paper test. If you hold a piece of tissue paper, say 2 inches from your mouth, and say the word pen, the paper should physically jump because of the puff of air. This is called aspiration. Now say Ben. The paper should barely move at all. Doing this teaches you the actual physical force required for unvoiced plosives like P, T, and K. You literally have to push that air. All right, on to section 3, cracking the phonics code, the rules of reading. Now I know what you're thinking. English spelling is notoriously chaotic. We only have 26 letters, but we have roughly 44 distinct sounds to make with them. But here's the secret. Reading is actually just about decoding phonetic instructions. While it seems chaotic, roughly 80% of English words follow hidden rules. For example, simple CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant, like CAT, always give us short vowels. And consonant digraphs like SH or TH map out entirely new mouth shapes for us. But check out the magic E. If you have a short word like hop with a short O, simply adding a silent E at the end reaches all the way back and forces that vowel to say its own name. It transforms it into the long O in hope. Recognizing these visual pairs and rules completely changes the instructions your brain sends to your mouth. Section 4. The heartbeat of words, why English stress matters. We have officially arrived at the core of our explainer. Because in today's fast-paced world of global Zoom calls and international teams, a word is not just a definition, it is a sound shape. Think about it. If you slightly mispronounce a single vowel, people can usually still guess what you mean from the context. But if you put the heartbeat, the stress, on the wrong syllable, native speakers simply will not understand you. Your point gets lost. So the crucial point is this. Every multi-syllable word has a king syllable. This king is louder, it's longer, and it's higher in pitch. To master this, I want you to try the rubber band technique. Literally, imagine holding a rubber band in your hands. When you say the word computer, Physically pull your hands wide on that stressed king syllable. Computer. Doing that motion on pew makes the concept of word stress completely impossible to ignore. But wait, if one syllable is the loud, important king, what happens to the others? Well, meet the schwa. It is the ultimate couch potato of the English language. It's just this lazy, super relaxed sound, and amazingly, it's the most common sound in the entire language. In the word water, that ending isn't a sharp, clear it's a lazy w. In the word about, it's a lazy about. To sound natural, you actually have to swallow your weak syllables. You cannot pronounce every single vowel perfectly clearly, or it just sounds wrong.
And there's a really cool pattern to this. For two-syllable nouns and adjectives, the stress is almost always on that first syllable. Table, water, happy. But for two-syllable verbs, that heavy weight shifts over to the second syllable. Begin, relax, decide. If you ignore these rules and just give equal weight to every single syllable, you are going to sound like a robot, even if your consonants are flawless.
Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, Rhythm, Intonation, and Flow, the melody of meaning.
Let's expand this whole concept of the heartbeat from single words to full sentences. Because in English, it is actually the grammar of the sentence that dictates its rhythmic bounce and melody. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how that bounce works. You see, English is a stress-timed language. You stress the content words that carry the actual meaning, like your nouns and verbs. And you crush the function words, which are just the grammar glue, like prepositions and articles. If you say, I want to go to the store, with equal weight on every word, you sound robotic. But the natural spoken reality is bouncy. I want to go to the store. The grammar words become tiny and weak, while the content words get loud and long. And hey, this is exactly why contractions are such a big deal. Textbooks often teach contractions as just informal grammar that you use with friends. But in reality, they are absolute pronunciation necessities. If you say, I do not like it, you're forced to put stress on do and not, which honestly makes you sound angry or aggressive. But I don't like it, that flows perfectly into the stress-timed rhythm of the language. Contractions maintain the heartbeat.
Finally, we have intonation, the actual pitch of your voice. Try what I call the kazoo method. Just hum a sentence like a kazoo using da-da-da-da-da. You will physically feel how pitch shows emotion. A falling pitch at the end of a sentence signals a statement of fact, or a what question, showing authority and confidence. But a rising pitch at the end, going up like a little musical question mark, signals a yes-no question or uncertainty. Your grammar literally bends to your will through your pronunciation.
And that leaves us with this final thought for today. Think of grammar and vocabulary as providing the sheet music, but your physical mastery of the heartbeat of English, that is the performance. Don't just play the notes, you have to play the rhythm. So the next time you step into a high-stakes global meeting or you're about to make a big pitch, ask yourself, what shape will your words take today?
Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. You know, if you've ever felt completely frustrated trying to perfect your English pronunciation, I want you to just go ahead and wipe the slate clean right now. Because today, we're not going to treat learning English like some giant mental memory game. Instead, we're treating it like a literal physical workout for your face. We're diving into this really fascinating idea of mouth gymnastics and looking at exactly how our mouth muscles physically shape the English language. So let's jump right in.
Here's our workout routine for today. Number 1, welcome to the mouth gym. Number 2, the big 5 English sounds. 3 speaking practice techniques. And finally, number 4, embrace the muscle aches.
Section 1, welcome to the mouth gym, redefining fluency.
Okay, we really need to stop thinking about pronunciation as just remembering a bunch of grammar rules. Seriously, speaking is actually physical education. Think about it for a second. Your mouth, your tongue, your lips, your jaw, they're literally all muscles. And they have spent your entire life moving in the very specific, deeply ingrained patterns of your native language. But English, well, English requires them to move in entirely new and frankly sometimes pretty awkward ways. You're literally taking your mouth to the gym. Section 2. The big 5 English sounds, heavy lifting for your mouth. We're going to focus on 5 specific sounds that are responsible for a staggering 90% of struggles when people are learning English. Now, obviously, every language background is a bit different, but these are the main target muscle groups we're working out today to correct those old habits and build some brand new muscle memory. First up on the bench press, the TH sounds. This is a notoriously tricky hurdle where most people instinctively substitute a familiar sound from their own native tongue, like an S, Z, T, or D. But let's look at how we fix this mechanically. So instead of saying I think when you actually mean I think, I want you to physically stick your tongue out right now. Seriously, literally place the tip of your tongue right between your top and bottom teeth. Now, blow air out gently. S, right? That's the unvoiced sound in think. To make the voiced version for words like this, you just add vocal vibration from your throat. And yeah, it feels incredibly silly, it looks silly, but do it anyway. It is literally the only way to train that specific muscle. Next up is the English R, and this one is completely different from the R in so many other languages. A lot of learners mistakenly try to roll it, like you would in Spanish, or they form it by touching the roof of their mouth, which is super common in many Asian languages. Well, here is the physical correction. The English R is essentially a growl. So form your tongue into a tight little ball right in the middle of your mouth, and here's the crucial part. Do not let the tip touch the roof of your mouth. Now pull your lips back slightly, or round them like a kiss, and literally growl like a dog. Come on, try it with me. Roar. Now just add a vowel to the end of that growl. Red, run. See? That's the exact physical mechanism of the English R. Moving right along to what I like to call a notorious superset, the V versus the W. Getting these two muscle movements mixed up is exactly what turns a word like water into water, or very into wary. Notice this stark mechanical difference here. For the V, your top teeth absolutely must touch your bottom lip. Physically bite your bottom lip right now, just gently, and vibrate. Very. Okay, now immediately switch to the W. For this one, your teeth must not touch your lip at all. Make a tight, small circle with your lips, kind of like a kiss, and push them out forward. Water. Feeling that intense physical difference is exactly how you master these two sounds. Now let's tackle the short A. This is a vowel that frequently gets squashed down because the mouth just isn't doing enough work, which leads people to mistakenly say ket or cut instead of cat. The fix here is all about exaggeration and opening up space. You actually need to open your mouth wide and really drop your jaw. Push your tongue forward and lay it totally flat against the bottom of your mouth. Imagine you're about to bite into a massive, juicy apple as you say it. Let's try it. Apple. Cat. Do you feel how much more your jaw has to drop compared to a word like cut? That stretch you're feeling, that is the muscle working exactly right. Our last heavy lift in the Big Five is the L sound. This sound so often gets swallowed up by beginners, especially at the ends of words. So a word like fool just becomes foo. To fix this swallowed sound, it's all about sticking the landing. Reach the tip of your tongue up right now and find that bumpy little ridge right behind your top front teeth. To make a clear L, your tongue must tap that ridge. Light. And for words that end in L, you need to physically hold the tongue up there for a full second. Feel. Seriously, don't let your tongue drop back down until the sound is completely 100% finished. Section 3, 3 speaking practice techniques. Targeted drills. All right, now that we know the proper physical form, we've got to practice it. Our first drill relies heavily on visual feedback. Why? Well, because you absolutely cannot fix a physical movement that you can't see. Just like checking your form in the gym mirrors, you need to check your mouth. So get in front of a mirror and actively check your physical form against these exact questions. When you say a word with a W, do you actually see that tight circle? When you practice the TH, is your tongue visibly poking out between your teeth? Visual feedback is absolutely critical at this stage to make sure your muscles are actually doing the work you think they're doing. Okay, let's dive into technique number 2, the tissue paper test. This is brilliantly designed to help you master aspiration, which is that puff of air that accompanies certain English sounds. Go ahead and grab a single tissue right now and hold it about 2 inches from your mouth. Say the word pen. The paper should literally jump or flutter from the physical force of the air. Now say ben. The paper should barely move at all. This perfectly illustrates the physical force of unvoiced plosives like P, T, and K. Our final drill is the slow motion exaggeration. When you're practicing a new, difficult word, you do not want to rush it. You actually want to say it in extreme slow motion, exaggerating every single tiny mouth movement. Water. This deliberately maps out the muscle memory in your brain. Once those muscles know the exact path they need to take, Then you can smoothly speed it back up to a normal conversational pace. Section 4. Embrace the muscle aches, the cool down. Listen, if your mouth gets tired, if your jaw aches just a little bit, and if you feel utterly ridiculous making these funny faces in the mirror, that is actual physical proof of your progress. It means you are successfully breaking old native language habits and building brand new English muscles. You really just have to embrace the awkwardness. Always keep this core takeaway in mind. The awkwardness, the funny faces, the sheer physical effort of today's mouth gymnastics, it isn't just busy work. It's a direct, calculated investment in your future fluency. You are putting in the reps today so that tomorrow, the words just flow effortlessly. Which brings us to our final thought. The gym is open and the equipment is ready to go. So, look in the mirror, grab a tissue, and ask yourself, which of these sounds and which of these physical drills are you going to tackle in the mouth gym today? Get out there and start building those English muscles. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Welcome to the Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. If you've ever stared at an English word and thought, why on earth is this spelled one way but pronounced completely differently? Well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, our mission is to decode the notoriously chaotic English language. We're diving right into what's known as the A1 reading shift. Basically, it's that magic moment when reading goes from just blindly memorizing whole words to actually cracking the phonetic code hidden inside them. So let's get right into it. To really understand the problem, we've got to look at the numbers. The English alphabet gives us exactly 26 letters to work with. And on the surface, 26 sounds like a perfectly reasonable, manageable toolkit for a language, right? You'd think it would be a simple, straightforward system. One letter equals one sound. But, as we all know, reality is far from that simple. In English, we actually speak roughly 44 distinct sounds. And this mathematical mismatch, it is the absolute root cause of all our spelling chaos. Because we have 44 sounds but only 26 letters, those poor 26 letters are forced to work crazy overtime. They have to partner up, they have to change their behavior based on whoever is sitting next to them, or sometimes they just stay completely silent to make this beautifully absurd language work at all. So, here is our mission briefing for today. First, we'll cover the chaos of English spelling. Then, unlocking the vowel rules, followed by decoding the tricky consonants. After that, we'll go over some practical strategies for perfect pronunciation, and finally, we'll map it all out with the Phonics roadmap. All right, part 1, the chaos of English spelling. Let's see exactly what happens when letters are forced to multitask. To navigate this chaos, we need a tool, and that tool is Phonics. Now, I know the second some people hear the word phonics, they immediately picture a super dry, boring school subject. I want you to completely erase that image from your mind. Phonics isn't a dusty textbook drill. It is literally a secret decoder ring hidden right inside the spelling of everyday words. At the A1 reading level, reading isn't just looking at a word and crossing your fingers hoping you remember what it sounds like. It's the active process of reading the physical, phonetic instructions that the spelling is giving you so you can pronounce words perfectly. Moving right along to part 2, unlocking the vowel rules. Let's get our foundation set. Our very first foundational rule is all about CVC words, consonant, vowel, consonant. Think of a one-syllable word where a single vowel is completely trapped between two consonants. It's boxed in. When that happens, the vowel is almost always going to make its short sound. C-A-T gives us the short A in cat. P-I-G gives us the short I in pig. We see that exact same pattern in hot, bug, and bed. The goal here is neuroplasticity. When you see that consonant-vowel-consonant pattern on a page, it should automatically trigger that short vowel sound in your brain before you even open your mouth. But check out what happens when we add just one extra letter to the end of those CVC words. Enter rule number 2, the magic E. Take those short vowels we just talked about, hop, kit, and cut. If you add an E to the end, everything completely changes. Now, this E is totally silent, but it packs some incredible magic power. It literally reaches back over the consonant next to it and forces that first vowel to shout its own name, turning it into a long vowel sound. So hop becomes hope, kit transforms into kite, and cut becomes cute. Recognizing this magic E on sight is exactly what saves you from awkwardly mispronouncing hope as hop E. It's just a silent instructor telling that first vowel exactly what to do. Okay, part 3. let's talk about decoding the tricky consonants, the real rule breakers of the alphabet. This brings us to rule number 3, consonant digraphs. Now, a digraph is really just what happens when two consonants hold hands to create one completely new sound together. You absolutely have to memorize these visual pairs because looking at their individual letters will not help you decode them at all. First up, SH makes the sh sound, like you're quieting someone in a library, found in ship and shoe. Next, CH makes that sharp cha-cha-cha train sound in chair and cheese. Then TH gives us that famous tongue between the teeth sound in think and that. After that, we've got PH, which just totally steals the F sound for words like phone and photo. And finally, WH acts exactly like a W, maybe with a little extra puff of air, like in white and whale. 2 letters, 1 single sound. Rule 4 deals with the chameleon letters, C and G. Both of these letters have a hard sound and a soft sound. Usually, C is hard, giving us the K sound in cat and cold. G is usually hard too, giving us the G sound in game and go. So the big question is, how do we know when they soften up? Well, the secret trigger is all about the letters that follow them. If a C or a G is followed by an E, an I, or a Y, their sounds soften. So the hard C becomes an S sound, giving us city, ice, and cycle. The hard G becomes a J sound, giving us gym, giraffe, and gem. So remember, the letters E, I, and Y are the modifiers you have to look out for with laser focus. All right, part 4. We've got the rules. Now it's time for a field test with some strategies for perfect pronunciation. Strategy number 1 is what we call sound tapping. Look, when you encounter a brand new word in English, your first instinct is probably to panic and try to guess the whole word at once, just based on its shape. Don't do that. Instead, I want you to literally tap your finger on the table for each distinct sound you hear, what linguists call a phoneme, rather than each letter you see. Let's try it with the word sheep. It has 5 letters, right? S, H, E, E, P. But applying our rules, how many sounds did it actually have? Step 1, we see the SH digraph, so that's 1 tap for the sh sound. Step 2, the double E. That's a 2nd tap for the long E sound. Step 3, the final P. That's our 3rd tap for the p sound. 5 letters, but only 3 taps. Tapping the sounds like this perfectly aligns what you're visually reading with what you're actually speaking. Strategy number 2 is nonsense word practice. This is the ultimate stress test to really prove to yourself that you've mastered the phonetic code and aren't just relying on memorizing vocabulary. You have to read nonsense words out loud. These aren't real English words, but they do follow all of our phonetic rules. Try them out with me. For CVC and Magic E, we've got blam, freep, and notice that silent E making the A say its name there, glid, and snote. Now let's try our digraphs. Shig, chot, thabe, and fun. Look, if you can confidently pronounce a word you have literally never seen before in your life, congratulations, you have officially mastered the phonetic code. Which brings us to our final section, part 5, the phonics roadmap. Let's see the big picture and where this all leads us. I totally get that the English language can feel incredibly frustrating. It is famous for its weird exceptions that just seem to break all the rules. But I really want to comfort you with this hugely empowering statistic. A massive 80% of English vocabulary words follow the exact basic phonics rules we just went over. 80%. That means all of the hard work you put into mastering those CVC patterns, the Magic E, the digraphs, and the soft C and G will pay off instantly for 8 out of every 10 words you read. The effort you put into learning this code is so rewarding. And that brings me to this absolutely crucial takeaway. Reading is not a guessing game. It is a meticulously detailed map to pronunciation. Learn the rules, trust the rules, let the letters tell your mouth what shape to make. When you look at an English word, it is quite literally giving you physical instructions on exactly how to move your tongue, your teeth, and your lips. You just have to trust the code. And that wraps up our explainer. We've successfully cracked the foundational A1 phonetic code together. But remember, this is really just the beginning of your journey into the mechanics of the English language. Once you start seeing these patterns, I promise you, you will never look at spelling the same way again. So I'll leave you with this final thought. The very next time you open a book or read a sign out on the street, what other secrets are hiding in your vocabulary? Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep practicing those rules and let the letters speak.
Okay, let's jump right into this explainer on the A1 writing shift.
We're going to completely shatter a myth that honestly almost all of us have believed since we first picked up a pencil. Think about it. When you picture someone writing, especially a language learner, what do you see? You probably picture a quiet room, right? Absolute silence, maybe some intense concentration. Well, today we are completely dismantling that illusion. Because if you're looking to actually master English pronunciation, your pen might just be your most powerful and for sure your loudest weapon.
So right out of the gate, this challenges our basic assumptions. You're probably wondering, what exactly does holding a pen have to do with speaking clearly? It sounds totally counterintuitive, doesn't it? Writing is on paper, and speaking happens in the air. But at the beginner level, what we call the A1 level, writing isn't just about putting ink on a page to read later. Not at all. It's actually a deeply physical tool for cementing your phonetic memory. When you're just starting to form the sounds of a new language, the way you use your hands can quite literally wire your brain to speak more clearly.
The secret here lies in something called the multi-sensory loop. When your hand and your mouth work together at the exact same time, it creates this unbelievable cognitive bridge. You're actively building a connection in your brain between the physical movement of your hand forming the letters and the physical movement of your mouth forming the sounds. By writing a word while saying its sounds out loud simultaneously, you aren't just passively memorizing it, you're physically experiencing the language. And this dual action directly and immediately improves how your brain processes auditory information. Let's move on to our first practical technique and see how this actually works. We're focusing on the natural rhythm, or what's beautifully called the heartbeat, of vocabulary. You see, every single word in English has a heartbeat. It's an underlying pulse made up of its syllables. And to truly speak clearly, you've got to find that heartbeat. Just knowing the letters on the page isn't enough. You literally have to feel the rhythm of the word in your body. Let's take a simple, everyday word, like water. When learning a new vocabulary word like this, we want to physically map out its heartbeat. So instead of treating the word as just a single, static block of text, you're breaking it down into its rhythmic components. And water has two very clear beats.
So, how do we actually put this into practice? Well, instead of just silently writing the word, you clap it out. You literally clap your hands as you say water and then draw a physical dash or dot on the page for every single clap. Now, why do this? Because this simple physical act of clapping and marking the paper absolutely stops you from rushing. It prevents you from swallowing sounds when you speak, which honestly is one of the most common habits that completely muddles pronunciation for early learners.
And the best part? This technique scales up perfectly for more complex vocabulary too. When you tackle a three-syllable word like computer or understand, physically dashing out com-po-ter anchors your pacing. It completely removes the temptation to just speed through a tough new word. It actually forces clarity simply because your mouth cannot move faster than your clapping hands and your dashing pen.
Okay, now we have to tackle a huge frustration for anyone learning English. I mean, if you studied the language for even a day, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's the epic battle of sounds versus letters. English spelling can be beautifully chaotic, right? Sometimes the letters on a page feel like a total practical joke compared to what you're actually supposed to say. So we need a way to separate the visual trickery of English spelling from the actual sounds coming out of your mouth. To cut through all that noise, we use the Soundbox method.
Just imagine drawing empty boxes on a piece of paper. Now, instead of counting letters, you push a coin, or maybe a token, into a box for every single sound you hear. Take the word fish. Our logical brains see 4 letters, sure, but auditory reality tells us there are only 3 sounds, the F sound, the I sound, and the sh sound. So you push 3 coins into 3 boxes. This highly tactile method basically trains your brain to ignore those deceptive letters and focus entirely on the physical sounds your mouth actually needs to make.
And this brings us to a really profound concept. The pen acts as a metronome for your mouth. Just think about that imagery for a second. By slowing down and writing by hand, you can literally synchronize your voice to the very tip of your pen. So as your hand forms the letters, you draw out the sounds. Wa, 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 ter. This deliberately slows your brain down. It forces perfect articulation and completely eliminates sloppy fast speech because your voice is physically tethered to the steady, deliberate pace of your handwriting.
So how do we apply all this incredible theory? Well, let's open up your pronunciation toolkit. We're going to break down 2 specific, highly actionable writing exercises that you can start using in your study sessions today. These are directly designed to absolutely supercharge your pronunciation by combining your hand, your eyes, and your voice.
Our first tool is dictation transcription, and it creates this perfect feedback loop.
First, you listen to a simple A1 sentence on an audio clip. Then, you write it down exactly as you hear it. And finally, you read it back out loud, focusing intensely on making your mouth match perfectly to the letters you just wrote. So your listening dictates your writing, and then your writing dictates your speaking. It completely closes the gap between hearing a sound and actually producing it yourself. Our second tool is the vowel highlighter. Now, English vowels can be incredibly tricky, but visually categorizing them changes everything. If you take a yellow highlighter for all the long vowels, like words with a magic E or open syllables, and a pink highlighter for all the short vowels, something really incredible happens. Visually categorizing the words by their vowel sounds prepares your mouth for the exact right pronunciation before you even start reading aloud. Your eyes scan ahead, they see the yellow or the pink, and your brain instantly presets your mouth posture. It is a total game changer for reading fluency. So, the ultimate takeaway here is profound, but it's really simple. Make it physical. Make it loud. We have to completely rewire our approach and never view writing as a silent, passive activity again. Let your pen trace the exact physical path of your voice, because when your hand and your mouth work together in unison, those complex English sounds don't just stay on the page, they become permanently etched into your memory. So the next time you sit down with a pen to learn a new word, I want you to ask yourself one question. Is my writing loud enough? Welcome back to The Explainer. So today we're diving into a concept that literally changed the game for how I look at learning English. It's called the A1 vocabulary shift. If you've ever felt like you're putting in hours and hours of study time, but you're still kind of hitting a brick wall when it actually comes to speaking, well, the source material points to something absolutely fascinating: mastering the sound shape of English. Right off the bat, the sources pose a pretty bold question. Are you actually memorizing words wrong? Because it turns out just learning the spelling and the literal translation, that might only be half the battle. I mean, imagine it. You study for hours, you write a word down a dozen times, you know exactly what it means and how to spell it perfectly, but then you go out into the real world, you say the word to a native English speaker, and they just give you this blank stare. It is such a frustrating feeling. You might be sitting there thinking you're saying this sounds perfectly, so what's the disconnect here?
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The sound shape moving beyond spelling and meaning.
To figure out this disconnect, we really have to step into the physical reality of the language. The research suggests that a word isn't just, some abstract concept floating around in a dictionary. It's physical. It has a very specific sequence of sounds and a literal heartbeat, which we call stress. If we're just memorizing the letters and totally ignoring that rhythmic sequence, we're missing the core of how the word actually sounds out in the wild. Internalizing this heartbeat, that is absolutely crucial. That's where true understanding actually begins.
Now, the sources highlight this awesome concept they call the king syllable. Basically, in English, every single word that has more than one syllable has a king. One syllable essentially rules over all the others. Listen to how it sounds when I hit it. It is literally louder, it is longer, and it is higher in pitch. And the other syllables in the word? Well, they're the loyal subjects. They become weak, incredibly fast, and just reduced in sound. This is exactly why, even if you pronounce every individual consonant and vowel perfectly, putting that stress in the wrong place can throw a native speaker completely off. The rhythm matters just as much as the letters do.
Let's keep moving. Section 2. Mastering the heartbeat. The patterns of word stress. So, how do we actually find this pulse? I know English can seem totally random sometimes, but there are actually some amazing, foundational rules that govern this heartbeat, especially at the beginner levels. Just notice the difference here between two-syllable nouns and verbs. For nouns and adjectives, the rule of thumb is generally to stress the first syllable. Just listen to this. Table, happy, water, doctor, pencil. Hear that? It's heavy and high right at the start. But with two-syllable verbs, the action words, the stress shifts to the second syllable. Begin, decide, present, relax. You can clearly hear that shift, right? Relax. Getting that pulse right literally instantly makes the language sound so much more authentic. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is what happens when words get longer. You'd think it gets harder, but they actually become surprisingly predictable. Notice these really common word endings: tation, scission, and ick. The rule here is an absolute lifesaver. You always stress the syllable right before that ending, no matter how ridiculously long the word is. So information becomes information. Television is television. Fantastic is fantastic.
Once you spot that pattern, it's a real game changer. You can confidently pronounce huge, complex words you've never even seen before, literally just by looking at the ending and stepping one syllable back.
All right, Section 3. 3 pronunciation strategies, your tactile and auditory toolkit.
So we have the theory and the rules down, but how do we practice this so it becomes completely automatic in real conversations? Well, the text outlines a really great progression of 3 techniques to make these abstract concepts super physical and practical. We're going to start with the rubber band technique. Then we'll move into the mind-blowing schwa discovery, and we'll wrap up with a totally new way to organize your vocabulary notes.
Strategy 1 is incredibly visceral. It's the rubber band technique. The next time you're learning a new multi-syllable word, I want you to try physically holding a rubber band between your hands, or at least vividly imagine holding one. As you speak the word out loud, when you hit that stressed king syllable, pull the rubber band wide. Then, on the weak syllables, just let it snap back fast. Let's try it together with the word computer. Com-puter. Pull wide on pew, snap back on ter. Computer. By physicalizing the stress like this, you're connecting your mouth muscles directly to your hand muscles. It literally forces that king syllable to be longer and louder.
Okay, on to strategy 2. Notice this strange upside-down E symbol here? This represents what the source material calls the absolute biggest secret in English pronunciation, the schwa. Get this, it turns out the most common sound in the entire English language is actually not A, E, I, O, or U. It's not those primary vowels we usually spend weeks and weeks focusing on in school. No way. It is this exact sound right here.
So what even is the schwa? Basically, it is an incredibly relaxed sound. It turns out speaking natural English actually requires you to be a little bit lazy with your mouth. The schwa lives in all those weak, unstressed, super fast syllables we were just talking about. Take the word water. That at the end, it isn't pronounced with a tight, perfect sound. Nope, it's a lazy wata. In about, that first is just a lazy about. And pencil isn't a perfectly clear sill at the end, it's a lazy call, pencil. The funny thing is, if you try to pronounce every single vowel perfectly and clearly, it actually sounds totally unnatural to a native speaker. Embracing that lazy is the real trick to authentic pronunciation.
Strategy 3 is going to completely change how we study vocabulary. So the crucial point is, instead of using traditional lists grouped by a topic like food or travel, try grouping your vocabulary by sound. For instance, if you want to practice that notoriously tricky TH sound, just make a list of words that end in it. Bath, math, path, tooth, booth, youth. Read them straight down the column. Then tomorrow, maybe you practice the short I sound, sit, hit, bit, kit, pit, win. Because speaking is a physical act, grouping words this way forces your mouth muscles to perform the exact same specific movements over and over again. You're building pure muscle memory rather than just topic memory. It works like a charm.
Let's move to our final segment and see how this all builds together. Section 4, the music of words, bringing the sound shape to life.
Seeing how all of this connects really gives us a totally new philosophy for speaking. From the source material, there is this absolutely gorgeous metaphor. A word is a musical chord. It has high notes, which is the stress, and low notes, which is the schwa. I mean, it's just a beautiful way to approach the language, isn't it? Instead of just asking what a new word means and how it's spelled, we can start asking the fun questions. Where's the heartbeat? Which vowel gets totally lazy and becomes a schwa? And which consonant really pops out? Learning the music of the word and respecting those high and low notes, it changes the whole shebang.
Which brings us to our final thought for this explainer. I really want to leave you with this challenge for your very next study session. Where's the heartbeat in your next vocabulary word? Seriously, the next time you open a book or watch a show in English, listen for that pulse. Hunt for that king syllable. Embrace the lazy schwa. If you change the way you see the sound shape of the language, I promise you, you'll likely notice a huge difference in your very next conversation. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack all this today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.
Welcome to this explainer. Let's jump right in, because today we are looking at something absolutely fascinating, the hidden, undeniable connection between English grammar and musical performance. You know, we so often think of grammar as just this rigid set of rules you have to memorize out of a textbook. But what if I told you that grammar is actually just the sheet music, and your voice is the instrument? Once you understand how these textbook rules actually translate into physical rhythm and melody, learning the language completely transforms. Let's be real for a second. Have you ever experienced this extremely common frustration? You study hard, you know all the rules, you've got the verb conjugations down, you know the vocabulary for your level, and yet when you actually speak, it still sounds a bit, well, robotic. It feels stiff. It just doesn't sound like those native speakers you hear in movies or out in the real world. If that sounds familiar, don't worry. You are not doing anything wrong. You've simply been taught to play the notes without being taught how to perform the music. And that is exactly what we're going to fix today. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today's journey. First, the sheet music versus the performance. Then, we'll hit the beat of sentence stress, the melody of intonation, the flow of contractions, and finally, the rehearsal, where we put it all into practice.
Starting with part 1, the beat, finding the natural bounce.
So this is all about how the grammatical structure of your sentences physically dictates the rhythm of your speaking. See, English is a language that absolutely demands to bounce, and grammar is what gives it that energy. To understand this, we have to look at how English operates at its very core. It's what linguists call a stress-timed language. But what does that actually mean for us? It means the rhythm of a sentence isn't determined by counting every single word. Instead, it's created by highlighting or stressing the really important words and literally crushing the smaller grammar words right in between them. It creates a beat, this alternating dynamic pattern of loud and soft, strong and weak. Now, what's really interesting about this is how clearly we can separate the meaning carriers from the grammar glue. Think of content words, your nouns, main verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, as the stars of the show. They carry the actual story of your sentence, so they need to be loud and long. Then you have your function words. These are the pronouns, prepositions, articles, and auxiliary verbs. They are just the grammar glue. They hold the whole thing together, but they don't carry the main message. Because of that, they need to be tiny and fast. Let's actually hear what this sounds like in action. If you give equal time and equal stress to every single word, it sounds like this. I want to go to the store. It's incredibly robotic, right? But now, let's apply that stress-timed rule. We're going to crush the grammar words like to and the until they just sound like a quick t and the. And we push hard on those content words. Listen to the difference. I want to go to the store. Do you hear that natural bounce? That right there is the literal heartbeat of the English language. Moving on to part 2, the melody, intonation, and grammar. If sentence stress is the beat of the drum, intonation is the melody you sing right over it. Your voice is quite literally a musical instrument, and the pitch you use tells the listener exactly what kind of grammar you are deploying. First up, we have falling intonation. This is when the pitch of your voice noticeably drops at the very end of a sentence. And a dropping pitch isn't just some random stylistic choice. It's a hard grammatical signal. It tells your listener that you are completely finished speaking, that you are certain of what you're saying, and it projects real authority. Let's look at the specific grammatical uses for this falling melody. We use it for basic statements and for WH questions. You know, questions starting with who, what, where, when, or why. For a statement, I definitely don't say I live in London with my voice going way up. No, I say I live in London, dropping my pitch down to signify a concrete fact. The exact same goes for the WH question. I say, where do you live? The voice drops. This drop anchors the sentence and gives you this wonderfully grounded, native-sounding confidence. On the flip side of that, we have a rising intonation. This is where your pitch shifts upward at the end of the phrase. And this brilliantly illustrates how pitch acts as a musical question mark. When you send your voice up, you are leaving the door wide open. You're signaling to the listener that the interaction definitely isn't over yet. We use rising intonation when we want to signal uncertainty, ask for confirmation, or most commonly in A1 grammar, when asking a yes or no question. We wouldn't drop our voice here. Instead, we say, do you live in London? Your pitch just gently lifts at the end. Honestly, by practicing just these two melodies, the confident drop and the inquisitive lift, you instantly make your grammar emotionally accurate to whoever is listening. Which brings us to part 3, the flow. Contractions as pronunciation tools. Okay, I really want to bust a major myth here. A lot of textbooks teach contractions as just being informal or kind of lazy English. But honestly, that couldn't be further from the truth. In spoken English, they are absolute necessities for keeping that bounce and rhythm we just talked about. Think about it. If you flat out refuse to use a contraction and say, I do not like it, you are forcing yourself to put physical, heavy stress on the grammar words do and not. And as we've learned, stressing grammar words sounds aggressive and robotic to a native ear. But when you use the contraction, I don't like it, it flows perfectly into that stress-timed rhythm. It is not lazy, it's mechanically superior for spoken rhythm. So the crucial point is that you absolutely must learn to pronounce these contractions clearly because they are the bridge between textbook grammar and spoken reality. Take can't, for example. It is never pronounced as can't. If you're leaning toward American English, it sounds almost like can't. In British English, it's a long can't. And for don't, it requires a very clear round O sound. It's don't, not don't. Seriously, mastering these specific sounds is exactly what unlocks the smooth flow of a native speaker. All right, part 4, the rehearsal. Let's put this into practice. We have our beat, we have our melody, and we have our flow. Now it's time to take these concepts off the screen and actually use them. This first exercise is incredibly powerful. I call it the Kazoo method. Step 1, take a simple sentence, something like, I want to go to the park. Step 2, strip away all the English vocabulary entirely. Literally pretend you're a kazoo and just hum the rhythm using the word duh. Remember to crush the grammar words and stress the content words. It sounds like this. Da 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 go the da da da. Wait, scratch that. Let's keep it pure hum. Da 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 da. Do you feel that? Da 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 da. Step 3. Add the English words back in, perfectly matching that exact hum. I want to go to the park. By taking the actual vocabulary away, you isolate the pure grammatical rhythm. Our second exercise is the emotion shift, and this proves that grammar bends completely to your will. Let's take 3 basic words. She is my sister. If it's a simple statement of fact, use your falling intonation. She is my sister. Nice, easy, grounded. But what if you're shocked? Shift the intonation up. She is my sister? Suddenly, without changing a single grammar rule, you've created a question. What if you're contradicting someone who thinks someone else is your sister? You smash the stress on the very first word. She is my sister, not him. The exact same words, but 3 completely different meanings based purely on how you perform them. And finally, the grand finale, finding your new home. We've covered a lot of ground in this explainer today, but honestly, it all comes down to a single unifying philosophy about how you approach your learning moving forward. I want you to remember this powerful quote from our source material. Grammar provides the sheet music. Pronunciation is the performance. You cannot just play the right notes. You must play them with the right rhythm and the right melody. When you combine your basic grammar knowledge with native-like sentence stress and intonation, you don't just sound correct. You sound alive. You sound present. So I want to leave you with this thought. Are you ready to stop just playing the notes and start performing the music of the English language? The tools are literally right there in front of you. Keep practicing that bounce, keep listening to the melodies around you, and let your voice find its new home. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.